Dean of Ghana Christian International High School. I would encourage you guys to subscribe to Discord TV. Thank you. Bye bye.
Hello there, you're welcome to Hiscoff TV. If today your first time of watching our videos, I would like to remind you to subscribe to our channel. If you have already subscribed, we thank you very much for your support. Today we are looking at we are still on the people of northern Ghana. We are looking at the people and the characteristics within the northern part of the country. And today we are looking at the factors responsible for the rise of the Mole-Dagbani State. So the Mole-Dagbani State is what we are looking at today. Already I would do a documentary, some kind of video documentary on the origin of the Mole-Dagbani State, because I don't want to do a lecture on the origins. I want to make it in the form of a documentary kind of. And so I would include a link in the description so that you can watch the origin of the Mole-Dagbani states. And if you know that, you can now understand some of the factors responsible for the rise of the Mole-Dagbani states. So let's begin with the lesson objectives. Our lesson objectives is very simple, that by the end of this lesson, you will be able to examine the factors responsible for the rise of the Mole-Dagbani states. So you should be able to examine, look at the factors that enable the Mole-Dagbani states to rise in the northern part of Ghana. And don't forget that Mole-Dagbani state was one of the powerful states that emerged in the northern part of Ghana today. So let's look at the state. So as you can see in the map over here, the whole of this area is what we termed as the Mole-Dagbani State. Okay, so you can see the map over here. The whole of this area is what we termed as the Mole-Dagbani State. You can see quite a big kingdom, the Mole-Dagbani Kingdom. All right, the Mole-Dagbani State developed during the second half of the 15th century. Okay, so during the second half of the 15th century, somewhere around 1400 to 1499, that is somewhere around that period. It's them as the second half of the 15th century. So that is when the Mole-Dagbani State or kingdom emerged. Now, the Mole-Dagbani is just, a name for all the people. I'm trying to recall a particular name for that, but it's not coming. Good. So the Mole-Dagbani is just a name. For instance, like the Akan. The Akan comprises of different states or group of people. So the same thing that the Mole-Dagbani is also. So the states that makes up the Mole-Dagbani kingdom, okay, has to do with the Nagomba state, the Nanumba state, the Mamprusi, as well as the Mosi state, who are in Burkina Faso. So these 4 states makes up the Mole-Dagbani state. And if you happen to read the origin of the Mole-Dagbani state, you realize that these kingdoms states were established by the same children from the same stock or parent family. All right, yes. And so this is the people that we are talking about. You can see they are dressing over here. So as you have seen this year, these kingdoms rose to become very powerful and conquered a lot of towns, all right, or states around it. So today we are looking at some of the factors that enabled the Dagbani state or kingdom to conquer a lot of people. We realize that some of the children who, of course, founded some of these states, because of war, had to migrate to elsewhere, and they fought all of them, and they won, and they were able to found all these states. So let's begin with the factors for the rise of the Mole-Dagbani states. One important factor for the rise of the Mole-Dagbani state was trade. Okay, was trade. Now, trade, the Mole-Dagbani kingdom traded with the Hausa states and also the people of Mali and this helped in the growth of the Mole-Dagbani State. If you can recall, wherever there is trade, you realize that even if the town is a small town, always the town is vibrant because of the trade. Because when there is trade, people come into that particular area. Some even buy lands and begins to settle in there because they realize that that particular area is economically viable. Okay, and so the trade, and this will surely be about the trans-Saharan trade between the Hausa states and the Mali state, enabled the Mole-Dagbani state to rise, because one day the kings of the Mole-Dagbani state were taking taxes and revenues. Now, the Mande and the Wangara traders, who even control the trade routes, established some commercial centers, such as the Wa, Bole, as well as Bego. All right, so all these states were established, or all these trading centers or trading towns or states were established by the Wangara and the Mande traders who came to trade with the Mole-Dagbani people. And these states and towns rose to become very powerful. Bego, for instance, we've done a history on Bego, and you recall the importance of Bego in the history of Ghana, Wa and Bole, and all of these states. So wherever there is trade, bear in mind that it attracts people to that area. And so, we use people to also build a kingdom. Without people, you can't build a kingdom. And therefore, when people were trooping in to the Mole-Dagbani area with the establishment of these trading centers by the Mande and the Wangara traders, we are saying that it helped in the rise of the Mole-Dagbani state. Again, agriculture also played a very important role in the rise of the Mole-Dagbani states. So the people of the Mole-Dagbani state engaged in agriculture. They paid taxes on their produce, and these provided revenue for the administration and their cavalry armies. Because the people were into agriculture, and indigenously, don't forget that African states were paying tax. African states paid tax to their kings. Some may be in the form of, some may be in kind, as in if you're a cassava farmer, you would supply some of the cassava or give some of the cassava to your king as part of your tax. So that also gave a lot of revenue to the Mole-Dagbani kings, and which helped them in their expedition and conquering, because most of these states were using the cavalry armies, and that has to do with the use of horses, in fighting. Good. So let's look at the next one. Now, also possession of superior weapons was also a very important factor that helped the Mole-Dagbani states to rise. All right. The Mole-Dagbani states, they were invaders, and they, possessed quite superior weapons at that time as compared to the indigenous tribes or the indigenous people that they came to meet. Now, for example, Bewa, who was the grandson of Tohaji, built his kingdoms through wars of conquest. Other states also developed as a result of the bitter struggle for power among the children of the founders. So, for instance, Tohogu, the eldest surviving brother of Zireli, he founded the Mampurugu state with its capital at Gambaga, and Situmbu and Matambu also founded the Dagomba and the Nanumba state, respectively. So the indigenous people that these invaders, Tohogu and his people, Bewa and his, of course, Tohaji and his grandchildren and people came to meet, were using less superior weapons like bow and arrow, and like the Tapulinsi, the Talansi, those indigenous tribes that these invaders came to meet were not they were not a battle-like state. They were not into war, so they could actually not defend themselves. And don't also forget that using a horse to fight with somebody without a horse. You, the one with a horse, may have advantage over the one without horse. And with these people, invaders coming in with cavalries and all of that, also help them to rise. So they could easily conquer their their neighbors quite easily. All right, as you can see, almost all the brothers, founded the state because they possessed superior weapons. Now let's look at the next one. The absence of any strong kingdoms in the north was also an important factor that led to the rise of the Mole-Dagbani State. So the Mole-Dagbani State was also able to rise because in the north there wasn't any much powerful kingdom or any threat posed to them. Okay, and so that could not also halt the advance of the invaders, and that enabled them to build kingdoms. Now, when you look at the Vagala and the Sisala, as well as the Tampulinsi people, and all these, some of these states were acephalous. They did not have a centralized kingdom. They did not have a centralized state. The Vagala, the Sisala, and the Tampulinsi, they were all acephalous states. They were stateless. They did not have any centralized organization. And therefore, when the Mole-Dagbanis came in, they conquered them and then established their rule and control over these states. Okay? And so, there wasn't any strong kingdom, and therefore, it was easy for them to expand in that area. Good. Let's look at more. Islam, the introduction of Islam from the Hausa traders. Remember, these northern people in Ghana were trading with the Mande and the Wangara traders in the north, and therefore, through that, Islam was introduced to the Mole-Dagbani people, and Islam came to unite, these people, and with Islam came with its own culture, as well as traditions. So, for instance, Islamic marriages, ceremonies, laws, mode of dressing, everything were all adopted by the rulers to enhance the development of their state, because Islam has its own culture and its own identity, and so the people came to see themselves as being one people, binded by a common religion, and therefore they did not resort to war among themselves. They lived peacefully among themselves, and that is how Islam also led to the rise of the Mole-Dagbani states. Let's take a look at the next one. Again, the Mole-Dagbani states were also strategically positioned or located. The kingdoms were situated along a trade route. This is, of course, which is between the forest zone and the Hausa states. They established commercial centers and controlled the trade routes. For instance, leather products were exported from northern Ghana to the Hausa area, and revenue from this trade helped them in building the state. So they were strategically located, okay, and there were some of these pre-colonial towns. When you hear strategically located, basically, if not in the forest area, they are located on a trade route whereby they are able to control the trade and even get taxed the people or the traders who passes through their territory, and more so, they were able to produce leather products and also export them to the Hausa land, because they were really trading with the Hausa people. And all these things would help to generate revenue for the Mole-Dagbani states, and this would actually help them to grow and develop as a state or as a kingdom. Good. So I think this lesson has been very, very short. I think I moved very fast, but I hope you enjoyed the lesson. So this is a question for you. Examine any 4 factors responsible for the rise of the Mole-Dagbani state of northern Ghana. And I know that if you are asked this question, in any way, you may be able to do that. Thank you very much for your time, and support our channel by subscribing See you some other time. Bye-bye. Please don't forget to contact me if you have any question, any contribution, anything. Let us hear you. Let us hear your voice in the comment section.
First among equals. Bye.